Good morning. We are reading Monster Blood, Chapter 4. This is Monster Blood 2. Okay. And Alright. Conan shrugged. His blue eyes went wide and innocent. I don't know, Mr. Murphy, he replied in a tiny, forlorn voice. Evan just walked up and hit me as hard as he could. Conan is the school bully, and everyone calls him Conan the Barbarian. He replied in a tiny, forlorn voice. Evan just walked up and hit me as hard as he could. Conan rubbed his stomach and uttered a short whimper. Ow! He really hurt me. Mr. Murphy narrowed his beady black eyes at Evan. His chubby face turned bright red again. Evan, I saw the whole thing. I really don't understand you, he said softly. But Mr. Murphy, Evan started. The teacher raised a hand to silence him. If you were angry about what happened in class, Mr. Murphy said, you shouldn't take it out on other kids. Conan rubbed his stomach tenderly. I hope Evan didn't break anything, he murmured. Do you want to see the nurse? Mr. Murphy asked. Conan shook his head. Evan could see he was having trouble keeping a straight face. I'll be okay, he said and staggered away. What a phony, Evan thought bitterly. Did Conan know the whole time that Murphy was standing there? Probably. Go take care of Cuddles, Mr. Murphy told Evan, frowning, and try to shape up. Evan, I'm going to be watching you. Evan muttered a reply and trudged back into the classroom. Sunlight streamed in through the wall of windows. A strong breeze made the window shade flap over the open window near the teacher's desk. Feeling angry and upset, his stomach churning, Evan made his way through the empty room to the hamster cage. Cuddles wrinkled his nose in greeting. The hamster knew the routine by now. Evan gazed into the metal cage at the brown and white creature. Why do people think hamsters are cute, he wondered. Because they wrinkle their noses? Because they run around and around on a wheel like total jerks? Because of their cute little buck teeth? Cuddles stared at him with his little black eyes. He has Mr. Murphy's eyes, Evan thought, chuckling to himself. Maybe that's why Murphy likes him so much. Okay. So you're kind of cute, Evan told the hamster. But I know your secret. You're just a big fat rat in disguise. Cuddles wrinkled his nose again in reply. With a loud sigh, Evan went to work, holding his breath because he hated the smell. He pulled out the bottom tray. You're a messy little guy, he told the hamster. When are you going to learn to clean up your own room? Still holding his breath, he dumped out the old newspaper shavings and replaced them with fresh shavings from the box in the supply closet. He returned the bottom tray to its place as Cuddles watched with great interest. Then he poured fresh water into the water bottle. How about some sunflower seeds? Evan asked. He began to feel a little more cheerful, knowing his job was almost finished. He removed the seed cup from the cage and made his way across the room to the supply closet to get fresh sunflower seeds. Okay, Cuddles, he called. These look yummy. He started to carry the seeds back to the cage. Halfway across the room, Evan stopped and uttered a startled gasp. The cage door hung wide open. The hamster was gone. Oh my goodness. We are starting chapter 5. If you like YA horror mystery adventures about vampires, teen romance, you may like Vampire Juice. Here is the short blurb from my book. Amanda and Sean stumble upon a mysterious can of juice while searching for Halloween costumes at a local store. Despite being kicked out by the sales clerk, they become obsessed with uncovering the truth behind the strange drink. With the help from some local bullies, they sneak back into the store through a crypt in the graveyard, only to find themselves in the midst of a spine-chilling adventure. Well, that is my blurb from Vampire Juice. My link is in the bio. A choking sound escaped Evan's lips as he stared at the empty cage. His eyes darted frantically around the room. "Cuddles! Cuddles!" he called in a frightened voice. "Why am I yelling?" he asked himself, spinning around in total panic. The dumb hamster doesn't know its name. He heard footsteps out in the hall. "Mr. Murphy?" "No, please, no," Evan pleaded silently. "Don't let it be Mr. Murphy. Don't let him return until I have Cuddles safely back in the cage." Cuddles was Mr. Murphy's most precious possession. He had told this to the class time again. The class. He told this to the class time and again. Evan knew that if anything happened to Cuddles, Mr. Murphy would be on Evan's case for the rest of the year. No, for the rest of his life. Evan froze in the center of the room, listening hard. The footsteps passed by the room. Evan started breathing again. "Cuddles, where are you?" "Cuddles," he called in a trembling voice. "I have some delicious sunflower seeds for you." He spotted the furry brown-white creature on the chalk tray under the front chalkboard. "There you are, I see you," Evan whispered, tiptoeing toward it. Cuddles was busily chewing on something, a small piece of white chalk. Evan tiptoed closer. "I have seeds for you, Cuddles," he whispered. "Much tastier than chalk." Cuddles held the stick of chalk in his front paws, turning it as he chewed. Evan crept closer. "Look, seeds!" He held the plastic seed cup toward the hamster. Cuddles didn't look up. Evan crept up closer. Close enough to dive forward. And miss. The hamster dropped the chalk and scampered down the chalk tray. Evan made another frantic grab and came up with nothing but air, letting out a frustrated groan. Evan saw the hamster dive to the floor and scamper behind Mr. Murphy's desk. The hamster's feet skidded and slid on the linoleum floor, its toenails clicking loudly. "You can't get away. You're too fat," Evan cried. He dropped to his knees and peered under the desk. He could see Cuddles staring back at him from the darkness. The animal was breathing rapidly, its sides swelling with each breath. "Don't be scared," Evan whispered soothingly. "I'm going to put you back in your nice, safe cage." He crawled quickly to the desk. The hamster stared back at him, breathing hard. It didn't move until Evan reached for him. Then Cuddles scampered away, his paws sliding on the floor. Evan jumped angrily to his feet. "Cuddles, what's your problem?" he demanded loudly. "This isn't a stupid game." It wasn't a game at all, Evan knew. He didn't get the hamster back in the cage, Mr. Murphy would flunk him for sure, or suspend him from school, or get his family kicked out of Atlanta. "Calm down," Evan urged himself. "Don't panic." He took a deep breath and held it. Then he saw the hamster on the window ledge just inside the open window. "Okay, Evan, go ahead and panic," he told himself. This was definitely panic time. He tried to call to the hamster, but his voice came out, a choked whisper. Swallowing hard, Evan edged slowly toward the window ledge. "Come here, Cuddles," he whispered. "Please, Cuddles, come here. Closer, closer." Almost close enough to reach the hamster. Almost close enough. Don't move, Cuddles, don't move. He reached out his hand slowly. Cuddles glanced back at him with his soft black eyes. Then the hamster jumped out the window. Oh my goodness. Evan hung back. Chapter 6. Evan hung back for only a second. Then he jumped out the window after the hamster. Luckily, the science class was on the ground floor. Evan landed face down in a low evergreen hedge, struggling and squirming. It took him a while to climb to his feet. He took several steps over the grass, then turned and stared back along the bottom long ledge. Cuddles, are you under there? Evan squatted down to get a better view. The hedge stretched the entire length of the school building. Cuddles could hide under there forever. And if I don't find him, Evan told himself bitterly, I'd better hide under there forever too. To the right, Evan heard voices from the playground, happy shouting voices, carefree voices. Still squatting, he turned toward the happy voices and saw a fat brown ball wobbling over the grass toward the playground. No, not a ball. Cuddles. The fat hamster isn't getting away this time, Evan decided, jumping up and starting to chase after the creature. I'll catch him if I have to sit on him. A picture flashed into Evan's mind of Cuddles, flat as a pancake, after Evan had sat upon him, a little round furry hamster rug. Despite his panic, the thought of Cuddles as a rug brought a smile to Evan's perspiring face. As he ran, he kept his eyes on Cuddles. The hamster was wobbling rapidly over the grass toward the playground. Oh no, Evan cried out in horror as Cuddles darted in front of two girls speeding across the grass on bikes. Laughing together, they didn't even see the hamster. Cuddles is about to be roadkill, Evan thought, shrinking back. He shut his eyes and waited for the squish, but the bikes rolled smoothly on. And then when they had passed by, Evan spotted Cuddles continuing his journey to the playground unharmed. Cuddles, come back here, he shouted furiously. The hamster appeared to speed up. He tumbled onto the baseball diamond, all four paws scurrying over the dirt of the third baseline. Several kids stopped their game to stare. Stop him! Grab the hamster! Evan shouted desperately. But the kids only laughed. Know how to catch him? A joker named Robbie Green called to Evan. Make it sound like a sunflower seed. That's an old joke, a girl called to Robbie. Thanks for your help, Evan shouted sarcastically. He ran over to the pitching mound and had crossed second base when he realized he had lost sight of Cuddles. He stopped and spun around, his heart thudding wildly in his chest. He searched the grass of the infield. Where is he? He stammered. Do you see him? But the kids had returned to their softball game. I can't lose him now, Evan told himself, choked with panic. I can't. Sweat poured down Evan's forehead. He mopped it up with one hand, brushing back his curly red hair. His t-shirt flung wetly to his back. His mouth felt dry as cotton. Jogging onto the outfield, he searched the grass. Cuddles. No sign of him. A round brownish lump in the grass turned out to be someone's baseball glove. Cuddles? A kickball game was underway on the opposite diamond. Kids were shouting and cheering. Evan saw Bree Douglas, a girl from class, slide hard into second base just before the ball. Has anyone seen Cuddles? Evan gasped, trotting onto the diamond. Kids turned to gawk at him. Out here, Bree called, brushing off the knees of her jeans. Evan, did you take the hamster out for a walk? Everyone laughed, scornful laughter. He got away, Evan replied, panting. Is this what you what you're looking for?" a familiar voice called. Evan turned to see Conan Barber, a pleased smile on his handsome face, his blue eyes gleaming. Grabbing it by its furry back, Conan held the hamster up in one hand, Cuddles' forelegs scurrying in midair. "You caught him," Evan cried gratefully. He let out a long sigh of relief. He jumped out the window. Evan reached out both hands for the hamster, but Conan jerked Cuddles out of his reach. "Prove it's yours," Conan said, grinning. "Huh? Can you identify it?" Conan demanded, his eyes burning into challenging Evan. "Prove this hamster is yours." Evan swallowed hard and glanced around. Kids from the kickball game were huddling near. They were all grinning delight with Conan's mean joke. Evan sighed wearily and reached again for the hamster. But Conan was at least a foot taller than Evan. He lifted the hamster high above Evan's head, out of Evan's reach. "Prove it's yours," he repeated, flashing at the others a grin. "Give me a break, Conan," Evan pleaded. "I've been chasing that stupid hamster for hours. I just want to get him back in his cage before Mr. Murphy." "Do you have a license for him?" Conan demanded, still holding the squirming hamster above Evan's head. "Show me the license." Evan jumped and stretched both hands up, trying to grab Cuddles away, but Conan was too fast for him. He dodged away. Evan grabbed air. Some kids laughed. "Give him the hamster," Conan, Bree called. She had moved from second base. Conan's cold blue eyes sparkled excitedly. "I'll tell you how you can get the hamster back," he told Evan. "Huh?" Evan glared at him. He was getting really tired of Conan's game. "Here's how to get old Cuddles back," Conan continued, holding the hamster tightly against his chest in one hand and petting his back with the other. "Sing a song for it." "Hey, no way," Evan snapped. "Give it to me, Conan." Evan could feel his face growing even hotter. His knees started to tremble. He hoped no one could see it. "Sing row, row, row your boat. I'll give you Cuddles. Promise." Oh my goodness. Conan said, smirking. Some kids laughed. They moved closer, eager to see what Evan would do. Evan shook his head. "No way." "Come on," Conan urged softly, stroking the hamster's brown fur. "Row, row your boat. Just a few courses. You know how it goes, don't you?" More cruel laughter from the others. Conan's grin grew wider. "Come on, Evan. You like to sing, don't you?" "No, I hate singing," Evan muttered, his eyes on Cuddles. "Hey, don't be modest," Conan insisted. "I bet you're a great singer." "Are you a soprano or an alto?" Loud laughter. Evan's hands tightened into hard fists on his side. He wanted to punch Conan and punch him and punch him. He wanted to wipe that grin off Conan's handsome face with his fists. But he remembered what it had felt like to punch Conan. It had felt like hitting the side of a truck. He took a deep breath. "If I sing a stupid song, will you really give me back the hamster?" Conan didn't reply. Evan suddenly realized that Conan wasn't looking at him anymore. No one. They had all raised their eyes over Evan's shoulder. Confused, Evan spun around to face Mr. Murphy. "What is going on here?" the teacher demanded, his tiny black eyes moving from Evan to Conan, then back to Evan. Before Evan could reply, Conan held up the hamster. "Here's Cuddles," Mr. Murphy, Conan said. "Evan let him get away. But I rescued Cuddles just as he was going to get run over." Mr. Murphy let out a horrified gasp. "Run over?" he cried. "Cuddles? Run over?" The teacher reached out his chubby pink hands and took the hamster from Conan. He held the hamster against his bulging shirt and petted it, making soothing sounds to it. "Thank you, Conan," Mr. Murphy said, after calming Cuddles. He glared at Evan. "I'm very disappointed in you, Evan." Evan started to defend himself, but Mr. Murphy raised a hand to silence him. "We'll talk about it tomorrow. Right now, I must get poor Cuddles back into his cage. Evan slumped to the ground. He watched Mr. Murphy carry the hamster back to the school building. Mr. Murphy waddles just like the hamster, Evan realized. Normally that thought would cheer him up, but Evan was far too unhappy to be cheered up by anything. Conan had embarrassed him in front of the others, and a big grinning Hulk had managed to get Evan in trouble with Mr. Murphy twice in one afternoon. The kickball game had started up again. Evan climbed slowly to his feet, began trudging to the school building to get his backpack. He couldn't decide who he hated more, Cuddles or Conan. He had a sudden picture of Cuddles stuffed inside a muffin tin, being baked in an oven. That lovely thought didn't cheer Evan up. Even that lovely thought didn't cheer Evan up. He pulled his backpack out of the locker and slung it over his shoulder. Then he slammed the locker shut, the sound clanging down the empty hallway. He pushed open the front door and headed for home, walking slowly, lost in his unhappy thoughts. What a horrible day, he told himself. At least nothing worse could happen to me today. He had just crossed the street and was making his way on the sidewalk in front of the tall hedge when someone leaped out at him, grabbed his shoulders hard from behind, and pulled him roughly to the ground. Evan let out a frightened cry and gazed into his attacker's face. "You!" he cried. Who is it? We are on Chapter 7 of Monster Blood 2. Oh my goodness. Alright, here we are. Okay, if you like YA horror mystery adventures with teen romance, vampires, and it's spooky and creepy like Goosebumps, you may like Vampire Juice. Now here is a review from Vampire Juice. This book sent me back to the days of Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark? I felt like a kid being sucked into the world of Halloween horrors. It even came complete with settings reminiscent of the 90s, my favorite era. I always prefer horror that is pre-smartphone age. It follows the experience Sean and She's Not My Girlfriend, Amanda, as they prepare for the upcoming holiday. The author takes the time to develop the atmosphere and the characters before the focal plot point. The discovery of the vampire juice comes into play. I appreciate the quick yet thorough setup of both main and supporting characters' personalities. As per the age group, the story is written for teenagers, and the genre is just the right amount of detail. The fast pace of the story is never sacrificed. Bullies coming around to help in the midst of danger or horror is a favorite trope of mine, and the author executed it wonderfully. I also enjoy the reference to The Lost Boys, my favorite vampire movie next to 30 Days of Night. There was clear inspiration drawn from the movie in Vampire Juice, but with enough originality not to feel like a copy. The difference is in the targeted audience of the targeted age of the audience also keeps it from feeling so. I have to admit that while I was correct in some of the predictions, there were also things I didn't see coming, or rather I thought someone else was responsible. This was a good read to get into Halloween spirit for sure. It was quirky and fun while maintaining the original foreboding sense we all felt from the scary stories and spooky season growing up. All right. let's go back to Goosebumps, Chapter 7. And if you like that, check out my link in the bio. Vampire Juice. Here's a little advice, Andy said, grinning down at him. Don't go out for the wrestling team. Andy, Evan cried, staring up at her in surprise. What are you doing here? She reached out both hands and helped tug him to his feet. Then she tossed back her short brown hair with a flick of her head. Her brown eyes flashed excitedly. Didn't you read any of my letters? She demanded. Evan had met Andy the past summer when she had stayed with his great aunt for a few weeks. He and Andy had become good friends. She was with him when he bought the container of Monster Blood. She shared the whole frightening Monster Blood adventure with him. Evan liked Andy because she was funny and fearless and kind of crazy. He never could predict what she would do next. She didn't even dress like other girls Evan knew. Andy loved bright colors. Right now she was wearing a sleeveless magenta t-shirt over bright yellow shorts which matched her yellow sneakers. I told you in my last letter that my parents were sent overseas for a year, Andy said, giving Evan a playful shove. I told you they were sending me to Atlanta to live with my aunt and uncle. I told you I'd be living just 3 blocks away from you. I know, Evan replied, rolling his eyes. I just didn't expect to see you jump out of the hedge at me. Why not? Andy demanded, her dark eyes exploring his. Evan didn't know how to answer the question. Glad to see me? Andy asked. No, he joked. She pulled up a thick blade of grass and stuck it in the corner of her mouth. Then they began walking toward Evan's house. I'm starting at your school on Monday, she told him, chewing on the blade of grass. Thrills and chills, he replied, snickering. She shoved him off the sidewalk. I thought people were supposed to be polite in the South. I'm new here, Evan replied. How's Trigger? She asked, kicking a pebble across the sidewalk. Good, Evan told her. Like to talk a lot? She asked sarcastically. I'm in a bad mood, he confessed. It hasn't been the greatest day. It couldn't be as bad as the day Monster Blood went berserk, Andy exclaimed. Evan groaned. Don't mention Monster Blood to me, please. She studied him. Her expression turned serious. What's wrong, Evan? You look really upset, she said. Don't you like it here? He shook his head. Not much. As they walked, he told her about the trouble he was having in his new school. He told her about Mr. Murphy and Cuddles and how the teacher was always on his case. And he told her about Conan the Barbarian and how Conan was always picking on him, always getting him into trouble, always playing tricks on him and making him look bad. And no one will believe me about Monster Blood, Evan added. They were standing at the bottom of his driveway. They glanced up at Evan's new house, a 2-story red brick house with a sloping red tile roof. The late afternoon sun dripped behind a large puff of cloud, and a broad shadow rolled across the lawn. Andy's mouth dropped open. The blade of grass fell out. You told kids about Monster Blood? She asked in surprise. Evan nodded. Yeah, why not? It's a cool story, isn't it? And you expected kids to believe you, Andy cried, slapping her forehead. Did you think you were weird? Yeah, Evan replied barely. They all think I'm weird. And Andy laughed. Well, you are weird. Thanks a bunch, Andrea, Evan muttered. He knew she hated to be called by her real name. Don't call me Andrea, she replied sharply. She raised a fist. I'll pound you. Andrea, he repeated. He ducked away as she swung her fist. You punch like a girl, he exclaimed. You bleed like a boy, she threatened, laughing. She stopped. He suddenly had an idea. Hey, you can tell everyone I'm not weird, huh? Why would I do that? Andy demanded. No, really. Evan said excited. You can tell everyone at school that the monster blood was real, that you were there, that you saw it. Andy's expression suddenly changed. Her dark eyes lit up. A sly grin crossed her face. I can do better than that, she said mysteriously. Evan grabbed her shoulder. Huh? What do you mean? What do you mean you can do better? You'll see, she replied, teasing him. I brought something with me. What? What is it? What do you mean? Evan demanded. Meet me tomorrow after school, she told him. At that little park over there. She pointed to the next block. A narrow park, only a few blocks long, ran along the bank of the shallow creek. But what is it? Evan cried. She laughed. I love torturing you, she declared, but it's a little too easy. Then she turned her head down the street, running at full speed. Andy, wait, Evan called. What have you got? What did you bring? She didn't even turn around. All right. That's enough reading for me for today. We're going to find out next time. What did Andy bring? Any ideas? Well, thanks for watching. And I will see you next time.